Good afternoon, everybody. I want to thank y'all for taking this time to join me here this afternoon. We're going to learn a little bit about synthetic futures positions. So if we can get started here, we'll first off get us a little compliance issues out of the way. An investment in futures contracts is speculative, involves a high degree of risk, and is suitable only for persons who can assume the risk of loss in excess of their margin deposits. You should carefully consider whether futures trading is appropriate for you in light of your investment experience, trading objectives, financial resources, and other relevant circumstances. Past performance is not necessarily indicative of futures results. Our objective tonight is to tell you what an options on a futures contract is, how to implement a long or short synthetic futures position, advantages and disadvantages of this type of strategy, market environment in which a position like this may or may not become advantageous, the risks, the margin requirements, and the profit potentials of this. An option on a futures contract gives the buyer the right but not the obligation to buy a call option, sell a put option, a futures contract at a specific price called the strike price. For this right, the buyer pays a premium that is determined by the length of time to expiration, proximity to the underlying futures contract, and volatility. The seller collects the premium and is at risk the full value of the underlying futures contract if it expires above the strike price. If it is below the strike price for which he sold it, then he collects that premium. And that's what we're going to be learning how to do, is to sell, and part of our synthetic futures is to sell either a put or call to form a synthetic futures position. A long synthetic futures position consists of the buying of a call option and selling of a put option of the same or different strike prices. A short synthetic futures position consists of the buying of a put option and selling of a call option of the same or different strike prices. Tonight we're pretty much going to be focusing on the short synthetic futures because the market that we're looking at, primarily feeder cattle right now, is at a position that we feel that the synthetic futures position would be advantageous to us. Now, there's certain things that we want to look for, what we're looking for in a synthetic futures position. One is when a positive or negative basis spread is produced that is perceived as beneficial to the purveyor or producer. This means that a spread is significantly wider than what one may have seen sometime in the past or at the present. When greater price range is desired before pricing product. If you sell or buy a futures contract, your price is fixed at that level immediately. With the synthetic futures position, by using options and various different strike prices, we can curtail those risks and ranges by which strike prices that we use. We also perceive this as advantageous when risk is willing to be assumed in return for a reduction in option premium. The sale of the call or put option will collect premium and therefore reduce the premium paid on the call or put option that we are purchasing. When it's not perceived as advantageous, is unlimited risk is not wanted. A synthetic futures position, be it long or short, consists of unlimited risk and unlimited profit potential. So when we do not want to assume unlimited risk, as in a futures position or as in a synthetic futures position, then it would not be to our advantage. Reduction in option premium is not significant to assume risk of unlimited losses. So therefore, a put or call option that you would be selling is not at a high enough premium to help offset the premium that you would be paying for the other side of the option. Minimal risk protection is deemed warranted. If we are looking at something in which we want catastrophic protection for, that we do not feel that the market is really going to move in a disadvantage to us, then we may want a lesser amount of protection, and this would probably not be perceived as an opportunity to be able to do that. When the basis spread is not wide, therefore increasing risks of cash and futures meeting. If the basis were not very wide, then the opportunity for the underlying cash product to move up to or below to our futures position, then it wouldn't be as advantageous. We're not being able to capture that basis there, and therefore the futures would be more, the cash would be more likely to move to where the futures are, be that up or down. So let's work on what we're dealing with. A feeder cattle futures and options are quoted in dollars per hundredweight. $1 is representative for 100 pounds. The contract size is 50,000 pounds. Minimum tick is 2.5 cents, which converts to $12.50 per minimum tick. A $1 move converts to $500. Limit day up or down is $3 from the previous day's close, and a $3 move converts to $1,500. So when I quote you options, premiums, and I'm quoting them in dollars per hundredweights, if I tell you that it's going to be $1 for the option, that is equivalent to $500. This is a standardized contract for all feeder cattle futures. So this is what we're going to be doing tonight. I hope you got your pencil and paper out. This is a spread of the feeder cattle index and the September futures at today's close. There are 65 days left to expiration. It expires on September the 26th, and we are under the impression that this basis will narrow from $10.78 to 0 by September the 26th. It is a negative basis because the cash market, a basis is always quoted cash over futures, cash minus futures. Therefore, the cash market is $10.78 less than the underlying futures contract. We're going to use some real examples, and these examples are taken from today's settling prices. So in this example, the objective is to obtain a minimum and maximum sale price that a producer is satisfied accepting. Remember that a hedge is substitute sale or purchase for the physical product in the future. We want to price that product today and deliver it at some point in time in the future, or take delivery of sometime in the future. This is one of the examples that I came up with, and it is the buying of a 156 September put and the selling of a 161 September call at a premium of $1.32. This creates a window in which the producer could sell cattle on the cash market up to 159.68, which is the 161 September call minus the $1.32 premium, minus whatever your local basis is, before no further gains could be made on the cash side. Therefore, the futures moving up and or the cash index moving up can move all the way up to $1.61 before any further losses on your short call option would be realized. So this is today. These charts are as of the close today. The blue lines represent the strike price window that I just told you, the 161 and the 156. You can currently see that we are just slightly inside that 156 window. If you look down at the bottom right-hand corner, you have the current feeder cattle index as of today. So you can see that that spread between the 156 and the 145.84 is the $10 and change that we saw earlier on the spread chart of the basis. One has to assume one of three things are going to happen. Either we continue to move higher, we're going to stay right where we are, or we're going to move lower, one of the two. But at expiration on September the 26th, the price of the underlying futures and the price of the feeder cattle index will be the same regardless of what price level that may be at. So there's three end results that can take place. And end results can be calculated at any time using any price that the underlying futures may be at expiration. Therefore, all profits or losses can be calculated from taking the difference between the underlying futures contract and the strike price. All profits or losses will be plus or minus commissions. The end results will fall into one of these three categories. So now we're going to do some real life trading on it. The first one is if the underlying futures contract price expires above the call option strike price. Losses would result in the difference between the strike price and the underlying futures contract plus the premium paid for the synthetic futures contract and commissions. The second is if the underlying futures contract price expires between the two strikes. This would result in a loss of 100% of the premium paid for the synthetic futures contract, which in the example that we've got is $1.32 plus commissions. The third is if the underlying futures contract expires below the put strike price, profits would result in the difference between the strike price and the underlying futures contract minus the premium paid for the synthetic futures contract and commissions. Those are the only three things that can happen. All we're doing is moving forward into the future and deciding that at a certain price is where we are going to end up for the underlying futures contract and for the current feeder cattle index. So our first example was, it's now September the 26th, and the current feeder cattle index has risen from its price of 145.83 all the way up to 163, as well as has the futures contract. So this is just taking into effect that it's now progressing into the future. It's September the 26th, and the market, both the cash index has moved up. Maybe corn's gone down to $4 a bushel. Maybe fat cattle have risen to 132. Whatever that case may be, but the demand for feeder cattle by the feedlot has produced a significant rally in the feeder cattle index, and therefore the futures market has come up to meet that level. So here's what our end result is going to be. Using the 161 call and 156 put with a premium paid of $1.32, that's $660 that you had to pay for that premium. It's September the 26th, and the underlying futures contract is at 163. 163 right there. The synthetic futures contract will create a loss of $3.32 or $1,660 per contract. There are approximately 66 animals in a feeder cattle contract. So you can divide that number and go by per head of what that loss would be. What this loss is the difference between the call strike price and the underlying futures. $1.61 call minus the 163 where we are is $2, plus we paid $1.32 for it, so we have a total loss of $3.32. It's the difference between the call strike and the underlying futures contract plus the premium paid. This can be calculated at any price level of the underlying futures. So if you wanted to go up here and make this 165, 166, 167 however high you want to project that the price may be, either the feeder cattle index or the futures, you can tell what your loss is going to be. If you were to have sold a futures contract today, then your price is $156.62, and we go to 163, your loss would be approximately $6, $5.48, 38 cents. So what we're doing is we're creating a window, and those would be realized losses all the way up there. You may incur in the interim unrealized losses greater than what the realized losses may be at expiration. However, at expiration, the loss will be whatever the difference is between the strike price, which is 161, and the underlying futures contract, regardless of how high or how wide that spread may have garnered in the interim. So that's our first example right there. This is our worst case, is that prices continue to move higher, and therefore you are not able to gain any further cash advantage by the price keep going up to 161. Second example, they don't do anything. All of a sudden, the feeder cattle index moves up to somewhere in between the two strikes, anywhere in between it. It could be 159, 160.99, or 156.01. Anywhere in between those two strike prices, this is what's going to happen. You got the same 161 call. You have 156 put with a premium paid of 132, same $660. It's September the 26th, and the underlying futures contract is anywhere. It does not matter where. Anywhere between 161 and 156. The synthetic futures contract would create a loss of $1.32, $660 per contract. This is the premium paid upon initiation of the position. So what has happened is that we know that right now we're 145.83 on the feeder cattle index. The feeder cattle index has moved up significantly from here, therefore potentially increasing the probability that your cash market, wherever you are in your locale, has risen a similar amount. You are able to gain every single bit of that cash gain, and at the end of the sale on September the 26th, you deduct $1.32 from that sale. That's where this particular second scenario of what is going to happen out of the three, where we got three scenarios that are going to happen. This is the second one that can happen. All right. The third one now is if the feeder cattle index stays right where it is, or even declines further or moves up just a small amount. We have 150 September the 26th, and the price of the underlying futures have begun to slowly, gradually, or quickly move down towards the underlying feeder cattle index. This is how we'll calculate it. Using the same 161 call, 156 put with a premium paid of $1.32, $660. It's September the 26th, and the underlying futures contract is at 147. Remember, currently it's at 145.83, so we're saying that it's going to rise just a little bit more. Either corn has stopped going down, fat cattle prices have not increased, whatever the case may be, the feedlots have begun to slow in their purchasing of feeder cattle. Therefore, the feeder cattle index has not begun to rise any, and the premium of the futures contract will dissipate. And it will dissipate down to the feeder cattle index. So we've now got a 156 put. We're going to sell, the difference between those two is $9 minus the $1.32 that we paid, gives us a $7.68 profit per contract. This is the difference between the put strike 156, and the underlying futures, which is going to be at 147 if the feeder cattle index is 147, minus the premium paid. So those are our three examples, and those are the only three things that can happen at expiration. We're either going to close above the call, creating a loss that is going to be the difference between the underlying futures contract and our call strike price. We're going to have the market die somewhere in between the two strike prices, which is going to create a total loss of the premium of $1.32, or we're going to move lower. And we only may move just a little bit lower, but whatever we move lower, the difference between the put strike price and the underlying futures is going to collect to you. Now, a synthetic long futures contract is just the opposite of the short futures. The difference being, then this would be something for purveyors, because somebody coming in a feedlot that is wanting to buy feeder cattle, he may want to use a synthetic long futures contract in which he would be buying a call option and selling a put option. He would do this, in my opinion, what would be advantageous to him is when the basis is very positive, in which the cash feeder cattle may be trading several dollars above the futures, which is just opposite of what we have right now. But that would be perceived as very advantageous to them if they were to be able to buy cattle cheaper in the future than what they would be at the present. Same thing could be done with corn. So feedlots looking to buy corn may see, and whereas the basis is considerably different in corn than what it is in feeder cattle right now, I'm not recommending this, but what I am saying is that when people are looking to make purchases, the purveyors are looking to book corn, if they're looking to purchase feeder cattle, a positive basis would be an advantageous manner in which they would use a synthetic long futures contract. So let's talk about risks and loss and margin calls. A synthetic long or short futures contract subjects you, the owner, to unlimited risk of loss. Any price above the short call or short put can be any amount, however high that it can go. The difference being is that there can be significant risk in the interim between the day that you put the position on to the day that you take the position off at expiration. At expiration, your loss is going to be fully only the difference between the futures contract and the strike price plus or minus the premium that you paid for. It's the only that it can be. But in the interim, it can subject you to significant margin calls or margin requirements. The risk of realized loss is the difference between the short put option strike, between the short option strike and the underlying futures contract. So the difference between realized loss and unrealized loss can be significant. Risk of unrealized loss can amount substantially greater than potential realized losses within the interim to expiration. A short option is margined to the same extent as a long or short futures contract. So initial margins on a synthetic long or short futures position is the same as a futures contract. Whatever that margin may be on the feeders and or for fat cattle or corn, that's the same margins as if you were trading a futures contract. So you will have to have the initial margin on there, and margins calls may or may not greatly exceed what your margin deposits are. Your profit potential on such an area is the synthetic long or short futures contract can produce an unlimited profit potential above or below the long strike price minus the premium. The objective of these synthetics is to allow you a window of opportunity that suggests a higher sale price and potentially either a higher purchase price other than a futures contract. If you buy or sell a futures contract, your price is set that day. Regardless whether it's good, bad, or ugly, that's where that price is going to be. With the synthetic futures, however wide you choose to make that window is where your realized risks and rewards start to become material. So what you want to do is give yourself some kind of opportunity in there in which the cash market may or may not continue to rise without you becoming into realized losses while still maintaining that minimum sale price from the put option. The put option is your minimum sale price minus the premium that you pay for the option. So it's just creating a window. It's giving you a little bit of an opportunity that you do not have to say, well, from this get-go, from the day I buy or sell the futures contract, my profits and or losses mount exactly the same all the way up to expiration. When you go into a synthetic, it does not begin until the call option or the put option strike price is materialized. So the use of a synthetic long or short futures contract is to create a window of risk parameters in which the physical cash business can be conducted, potentially by increasing basis for cash sale, or setting a minimum price floor in return for the assumption of a calculated risk. Profit and loss calculations to any extent can be made prior to execution of a synthetic futures contract. So that's all I've got, and I think that I've covered all the bases to what it actually is. I need to know if y'all have any questions. Feel free to write them down on there. I'll take just 1 minute to go over